Oh, my goodness.
Not like Michael. First of all, it's a great day.
Especially after vacation. Wow.
I like this better, but yeah.
0 to 18. So 22 is best answer. Almost 2 are
Okay. What are we going to do? Okay. Okay. Yeah, but she has.
Literally.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for just a minute. Our board colleague and, of course, our friend, Davis Thomas's father passed away yesterday. Anthony Thomas was also an employee of the school district. A wonderful man. If I would like to ask all of you to take a moment of silence.
Mr. Evans. Present. Mr. Galala. Here. Mr. Geiger. Here. Ms. Katzbach. Present. Mr. Quinn. Here. Mr. Susick. Here. Ms. Thomas.
Here.
Reverend Walker. Here. Mr. Caffrey.
Present.
Yeah, Madam President, I have a quorum.
Chair wishes to announce that the board held an executive session on March 1st, 2016, and prior to the committee meeting of March 14th, 2016, and the regular board meeting of March 14th, 2016. Subjects discussed in executive session related solely to matters of employee relations, labor negotiation, or actual litigation. Motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 8th, 2016, and dispense with reading of those minutes.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Katzbach, second by Ms. Thomas. All in favor? Treasurer's report.
Mr. President and members of the Wilkes Barre Board of Education, the treasurer submits the following report for acceptance and audit. Cash balances for the month ending November 2015, general fund is $33,797,332.69. Special revenue funds show a balance of $542,786.19. Trust and agency funds have a balance of $2,314,223.50. Food service fund shows a balance of $1,156,112.32. Debt Service Fund has a balance of $9,283.70.
Mr. Brevard, the food service, one. What did you do last month? Balance 1.8 million?
Actually, last month it was the report's in the folder. It's 1.4. 1.5 actually.
All right, so, and go down one for what?
1.1. Well,
Yeah.
what happens
What
is,
was the buy?
well,
What was the purchase?
actually, the monthly cost too runs about $200,000 to $300,000. The operating costs.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report. Ms. Gazzard, second by Mr. Glover. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn? Yes. Mr. Geiger?
Yes.
Ms. Gazzard?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Caffey?
Yes.
Nine yes, the motion carries.
Unfinished business. Communications from our superintendent.
Yes, Mr. President. Tonight we have a very special presentation, and we want to thank Ms. Denise Lewinsky. She's here to present us, very honestly, the recognition for our suicide prevention programs. Denise, would you like to say anything this time?
I'd just like basically to share that the Greater Northeast Pennsylvania chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention proudly recognizes the combined efforts of the administration, staff, and students of the Wilkes Barre Area School District in conducting the Wilkes Barre Area School District Unites for Suicide Awareness 2015 Walk and Rally. And they utilized a theme called Remember, You Mean the World to Someone. This was the result of an award-winning poster that was created by a Coughlin student. And here we have a GAR student with us tonight, Mackenzie Nicole. Now, I say Nicole Mackenzie or Mackenzie Nicole? Who was the inspiration behind the event. We'd like to present to the district a plaque in recognition of this wonderful event, as well as a certificate to Mackenzie for
Fantastic.
being the inspiration behind the event.
Let me say this. I want to thank you so much. And if anyone saw that effort in regard to all our three schools, actually, I'm sorry, four schools
It was
coming
wonderful.
together, it was unbelievable that day. I know a lot of board members were present. Mackenzie, I want to thank you. You were the inspiration behind this. Your building principal is here today. Dr. Corey and her department got this rolling. We had board members. It was dear to Ms. Thomas's heart and some others around here. And I just want to thank you so much for this joint effort. Thank you, Mackenzie. I appreciate
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I also just wanted to give Mackenzie a little inspiration so that she can continue to be the voice for suicide prevention. It's a great event.
Along those lines, too, I want to congratulate some organizations in our school district, too. There's a lot of good things going on in our schools. One, of course, that year after year they dominate, and they, in fact, have done again this year. Our Myers speech and debate team is to be congratulated. We have students moving on there. We also have GAR speech and debate team, some students moving on, and we appreciate the coaches from both schools and the effort that they put forward. Additionally to that, congratulations that we did have many athletes here during the work session to receive their certificates. I have one, too, who couldn't make it, but he's waiting in the wings. And additionally to that, too, I want to congratulate the Myers basketball team for their run into the state playoffs. And in fact, the state champs, Mr. Elias, and some very dedicated students down at Myers High School. And I thank the Times Leader, too. I believe they did a nice story about that, Mr. Gaidash. Congratulations, state champs. The young gentleman is from Copeland High School, and he's a first-team All-State soccer player. Wow. And it's Matt Davidson. Are you out there, Matthew?
There you go.
Oh. Sure.
Okay. Sure. How about his mom?
Thank
There
you.
you go.
At this time, I'm going to give the floor, and then I'll be back. Ms. Katzuk would like to speak a little bit. We've decided to try to coordinate this, her and I. She's done a fantastic job with budget and finance, and she'd like to address our audience.
Thank you. Just very briefly, the Budget Finance Committee is now meeting bi-weekly. So every other week we get together and discuss primarily the budget impasse that's going on presently with our state government. We met prior to this meeting today, and just to give you a little flavor, we had to prioritize what bills we were going to pay and which ones we were going to defer. So that is where we are right now. We are in a dire situation. I have made a suggestion that we don't pass a budget. If the state doesn't have to pass a budget, why should we have to? That way we hold everything firm and true to what has happened prior. With the passing of Nancy Reagan this past week, it brought back one of my favorite quotes from Ronald Reagan. He once said, "To sit back hoping that someday, some way, someone will make things right is to go on feeding the crocodile, hoping he will eat you last, but eat you he will." And that's what's happening, little by little, to districts in this state because of the budget impasse. I have seen what individuals in this room can do regarding Myers High School, regarding the consolidation of schools, the formation of Save Our Schools. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to save our schools. This is a call to action for myself and hopefully from my fellow members of the board. On the edge of the table over there is a list of phone numbers for state representatives and state senators. I urge you all to take a copy of that and make numerous phone calls. Apply the heat, ladies and gentlemen, because we are in dire straits in this district and in this state. Our children need it.
I thank you, Ms. Katzuk, for that, and I'm going to continue, and I'm going to be even more blunt in regard to it. The possibility exists, unless the state impasse is addressed, this district, the possibility exists, this district will run out of money in mid-May. We are already looking at situations in regard to, and the positive is trying to keep our seniors on task despite this fact. It is very evident, and I've had many meetings over the last few weeks, over the last few days, with other school districts. Some will be forced to close in April. We've heard this, and yet it seems as though our cries are not being heard. We have representatives who are trying to fight for us in our own district, and I appreciate that and I applaud them. But we as a district have to possibly take drastic measures. One of two things. And that is, number one, we close our schools in 60 days. Or in fact, we look strategically to borrow to keep them going. It is a crisis. It is apocalyptic in nature on what's going on, and it's a sin what's going on in Harrisburg. Having said that, you know, I sit and I listen to other districts about test scores and their students and testing. For our kids, 4 or 5 schools are between 80 to 90% poverty rate, and 70% of our district are economically disadvantaged. It's not about test scores. It's about survival for some of these children. It, in fact, is about trying to meet their needs physically, spiritually, emotionally every day. I will be meeting with our teachers. I will be bringing them this possibility. Every school is going to come together this Wednesday at Plains. I'll be having a meeting for teachers only to talk to them about this. That the possibility exists. They may not be getting a paycheck in May, late May. Administrators may not. Anyone may not. Custodial maintenance and so on. This is an apocalyptic crisis that's going on, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Katzuk said it well. We need your help. We have our differences in regard to schools, consolidation, and so on. But we need to come together as a district. Many other districts are doing the same throughout the state. Mr. Galella?
I'd just like to say deeply about our kids. But if we have to shut down, our kids don't eat. That's as simple as it is. Many of our kids, 90% of them, free lunches, free breakfasts, and even some of them go to school afterwards at Kids Cafe in 2 of our schools, elementary schools, and eat supper. If we have to close down, they don't eat. It's that dire. We have an $8 million deficit that we're fighting. We're not getting any money from the state. We don't want to close down. But I hope you understand that borrowing is only going to put us further and further in debt. But most importantly is our kids will not eat if we have to shut down. And that's 90% of it. So I need you to rally around and get to our legislators. We have 2 wonderful ones who are working very hard for us, in Mike Carroll and Ed Pyshinsky. They're with us. Trust me. We were at a meeting last week with several of them. They are with us, but they can't fight it alone. We really need everyone's help to get involved and do something for our kids.
I'd like to say one thing now. You don't mention $8 million. That's the projected deficit for next school year. The actual difference is $16 million between now and the end of the school year for us to finish the year out.
What we have received from the state?
Right.
Yes.
We're talking $16 million. $8 million for the 2017 budget. We're down $16 million now. We're in trouble.
Can I say something? This is simply a Democrat governor and a House and Senate run by Republicans. And politics at its worst, at the expense of our children and expense of many places, many sections. It's politics at its absolute worst. And this is simply saying, you may have got elected as the Democrat, but we run the show. And it's a bang hit theory. Again, please call these people, congressmen, Senate, look over the R's. That's where they are. They say no, they never did. No to education. And call them up and say to them, look, start doing your darn job in Harrisburg.
Can I add something to Mr. Gillella's point, about the lunch program, too? I don't know if the public's aware of this, too. We have Kids Cafe at Heights, and we also have Kids Cafe at Dodson. This program is an after-school program that provides programs for our students, but also gives them a nourishing meal in the evening hours. And that is not existent this school year. I believe they're coming once a month and meeting with families to try to give what they can to help out these families. But it was flourishing last year at Heights and Dotson, and people who have friends and family in these schools see that it's non-existent. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you, Dr. Butler. Communications from citizens.
Yes, Mr. President, we've had several individuals sign in. The first is Angel Mathis, who'd like to speak about diversity and consolidation. I'll remind all our speakers we have 5 minutes, and I'll give you a 1 minute signal when we're close. Angel.
Well, I was going to read this. I'm not sure if you ever heard the modern fable, The Giraffe and the Elephant. But if you haven't, please read it. Please read it, because with this whole thing, with the consolidation of schools, I sit back and I listen to all of these meetings, and I listen to everyone with their concerns. However, there's a large group of stakeholders that's never represented. And the only reason why I bring that up is I actually had to remove my daughter from Wilkes Barre Area School District because the fact that, our schools at this time is not built for everyone in our district. So one of my questions is exactly how much do you pay for students to go outside of the district via cyber schools? Because I know with the cyber school my daughter was in, it was at least, there was at least 200 students from the Wilkes Barre area, where, building a new school and consolidating a new school is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. And quite honestly, looking over the agenda, I see you spent $1,000 in water for Coughlin, and that was the building that was closed for the month of February, when they're only using the annex, and that was another 900. And so, just with this whole budget thing, I can tell everyone that, maybe it's time to consolidate our schools. Maybe it's time. Maybe we can save money that way. Because I look at my mother and I look at my mother-in-law, and between the two of them, they own 5 lots. They own 5 lots. They pay taxes consistently for 5 lots of land. But yet, they don't have anyone who goes to the school district, that's in the school district, as far as current children. My mother has 2 granddaughters, and my mother-in-law has 1 great-granddaughter. And quite honestly, we can't sustain this. Right now, you're saying we're $16 million now because we don't have a budget. And I've worked with CEO, and because we don't have a budget, that's why you have no Kids Cafe. Many of these children that come from the school, I've served their families at food pantries that I've worked at, and summer lunch programs. So, we have to adopt, stay away from the giraffe and the elephant, because right now, our schools are built for giraffes. And you know what? There are some elephants and some zebras that need to come in too. But I can't stay for the rest of the meeting because I have to take my daughter to the meeting.
Next is Joanne Tenarello, who would like to speak about older schools.
I'm going to make this very brief. There are a lot of questions, a lot of comments. Obviously, the foremost item that we should be speaking about is, of course, the state budget and not having money for the school district. So in that case, why is it not possible at the last meeting, I believe, I don't know if it was Reverend Walker, that had made a motion to suspend seeking a new school at this time? Why don't we freeze what's going on and the costs that we are incurring in the contracts and in putting information out for a new school? Why don't we save that money right now and not go ahead at this time? Because obviously we have a lot more problems in the school district than getting a new school.
Let me say this to you. We are looking at every option right now because, as I said, it's crisis time.
It certainly is.
And that's exactly what we're exploring. No one here wants to close schools. We're looking at every option available. So comments have been discussed.
I hope so. I mean, it's serious, and of course,
You
we're
are
all here.
absolutely correct.
None of us want our schools closed, okay? Yes, it is a sentimental thing. At the last meeting, I know someone had stated that the Times Leader building that's being looked at was built like a fortress. I remember my mother, she graduated in 1940 from Myers, saying that Myers was built like a fortress, okay? And obviously, when I asked about it one time before, that you don't have a plan for Myers, but you don't have a plan of demolishing it. So, but getting back to the crisis, this is number one because of our children, and I think everybody would say that we put everything aside and try and look at saving money, keep our schools open until this impasse ends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next, Bob Holman would like to speak about PS1.
Oh, my goodness. Oh. He has to go to the bathroom.
First of all, Ms. Thomas, I'm very sorry about your father. Second, I'll get a list of that, and I'll put that on the Wilkes Barre Area Save Our Schools website or on our Facebook page. This way, we get all the numbers out, and everybody will get a little bit. We took a trip down to PS DuPont. I'm going to give you a quick thing when I went over. It's in the Brandywine School District. It has 20 schools, 10,500 students, 3 middle schools, 3 high schools. It's 40% minority overall. Over 50% of the students qualify for free lunch, so they all get it. PS DuPont originally served as an elementary school. It's now a middle school serving 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Approximately 1,000 students. It's 50% minority, and these kids are from the worst area of the worst area. You can't walk in this area during the day without getting the possibility of getting shot. There's 6 autistic classrooms, life skills, special education population is about 60%. The IEPs are higher than that, and it has award-winning STEM program. John Reed is the manager of construction, facilities, custodial, and security. He has renovated 13 schools, built 2 new schools, 1 of them were green. On the 11 of the 13 projects, the principal was replaced during construction. Now, he said he didn't specify why the principal was left, but he did said embrace the change is a theory he holds to. Out of 20 schools, he's renovated 13. That's pretty impressive. The buildings that he's replaced were built in the 1960s and 1970s. He said mostly due to shoddy workmanship and materials. Now, he believes that older buildings will last longer. Now, PS DuPont's 220,000 square feet. Renovation cost was $44 million or $1,780 per square foot. New construction average at the time was $310 per square foot. When they were spending before $3.8 million district-wide on utilities, they cut it to $2.7 million. Electric dropped in the school, $85,000 the first year. Energy recovery units that were up in the attic saved $20,000 a year. Another example of how they save some money on construction, their light fixtures. The LED light fixtures said cost $150. The TA costed $50. They went with the TA fixtures. Instead, they have chandeliers. Instead of putting glass up there, they put plastic. It's a beautiful school. Now, the engineers' costs to commission the building are typically $200,000 to $300,000. What they did is they hired a retired engineer for $50,000 and had their staff fix the mechanical systems and bring them up into commission. So this way, their staff knew how to work on these, and they didn't have to call anybody in to fix them. The guy is very, very good at what he does. What they did is they used rubber flooring. There's no more cleaning the floors. You know, they use water to clean their floors. Rubber floors. Nora Flooring was the place that they did it. And he got it cheaper because they put it in a magazine. Now, the reduction in district, here it goes. At 4 o'clock, the hallway lights, half the hallway lights go out, and the school temperature drops 5 degrees. There was a $900,000 reduction in the district, a 30% drop. Now, the flooring cost, the rubber flooring costs $11 a square foot. The typical flooring is $5 to $8 a square foot. Now, he said the savings were on cleaning supplies for that, and the fact that you went in there 8 years after it was built and the floors looked immaculate. Now, he also had sloped roofs, he said, were very highly recommended for their attic space because that ventilation is the key, and they put 2 air cleaning systems in the attic. Of course, they had 2 new boilers, 2 new chillers, new air conditioning. They had an additional cost of $60,000 to put sinks in every classroom. There was no plumbing in them before. They added private showers for the kids with bad home lives. They had private bathrooms for the kids that were disabled and were diapered. He had cabinets in each room for the teachers that hid the pipes to the plumbing. It was a fantastic idea. The prevailing wage was used. Electricians were $60 an hour. Unskilled labor was $42 an hour. Asbestos removal was $20 an hour. Now, he said, but one of the theories they went was find and remove problem areas. They built booths seating 4 kids in the cafeteria, and instead of having 16 kids sitting at a table, instead of cut down on fights. Watch 16 kids sitting at a table, you're going to have more an opportunity to fight than having 4 kids sitting at a booth. Very good idea. They had a staircase where fights happened all the time. They closed the staircase and put ductwork there. They used old furniture for the first year, just to see how it went with the thing. And the next year they brought in, that's when they bought new furniture. And they bought new furniture that wouldn't damage the floors. They bought autistic furniture for children. Now, I believe most of the time it's bought from Denmark. He said he bought it from a company in Tennessee and saved 30%. He said preventative work, every 5 years they do brick work. Every 5 years they paint the halls, and they haven't reached 10 years, but they paint the classrooms in 10 years. Every summer they strip the floors and the wooden floors that they have in the classrooms and polyurethane them. He said because we don't have to clean the floors in the hallways, we save tons of money and it gives them more time to clean other things. And he said the keys. He said control contracts and architects. He said get input from the staff, teachers, custodial, cafeteria, security, all of them. He said a big thing that a lot of schools do, I'm not saying that you do it, guys are doing it, but he said they put their computer purchases in their debt. So you're paying 30 years for computers that are only going to be used for 6 years. He said that happens in a lot of school districts when they're doing this. I'm not saying that you guys are doing it, but I'm saying this is a key, one of the keys that he said was important. And I said, I'm all right. The last thing I just want to say, this place it blew our mind, but the biggest thing that happened there was they wanted to do it, and he kept saying it was a public school, it doesn't need to be fancy. It needs to be flexible. Thank you.
I just want to publicly commend Mr. Holden, who posted a petition on Wilkes Barre Area Save Our Schools, urging the release of funds for our schools. I urge you all to go on. It's very simple. All you have to do is put your name in, and you are part of the petition. I urge you all to do that. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, Bob.
Our next speaker, Sarah Boland, who'd like to speak about plans.
Based on the recent success of Myers' chess team, which was mentioned earlier by the superintendent, I thought I'd like to take the opportunity to discuss what should go into the thought processes when consolidating the schools when it comes to programs such as the chess team and a lot of other academically based clubs that exist at Myers and the rest of the school district. I can personally speak to the Myers Speech and Debate team, being a coach and an alum from a long time ago. But that's not the only one that exists, as clearly shows by the state championship chess team, by the quiz bowl teams from the schools, by the STEM competition teams that have been winning in both math and science, from the FBLA at both Myers and Coughlin, and certainly JAR, by all of these academic clubs that add to the educational experience of the students that exist in this district. And what's important to understand is that that doesn't happen naturally or just because. It happens because there are dedicated teachers and volunteers that give their time to these programs. It happens because students walk to their schools so that when we have practice at 7 o'clock at night, they can get there. It happens because 8th period does not mean kids have to rush home and pick up their kids from elementary schools in a totally different neighborhood. It happens because it has students, when they live in neighborhood schools and go to neighborhood schools, have the flexibility to participate in programs that give their education a dimension that cannot be found in the classroom. I have watched over 100 students go through the Myers Speech and Debate team. I've done it. I've watched my colleagues and our kids go through the chess team. I've watched them participate in things that they wouldn't have the time to do if they weren't able to get to school quickly. It also means that for Myers Speech and Debate and other wonderful programs, we have volunteers that feel connected to their school, feel connected to Myers. We have alumni that come back. It's spring break time. One of the delights of spring break time is we have our college alums come back every year. And it's not just Myers, it's GIR and Coughlin. They have these same programs. Like it was mentioned, GIR started their speech and debate team last year, and they're sending 2 kids to Sacramento in competitive events. That is an experience that will change those students in a very, very positive way. And I also don't want to neglect athletics, because it's very important for students to participate in athletics and the academic programs. And again, I urge you all to think about the implications of taking schools outside of the range of students who in our district don't have the money to have cars, don't have the opportunities necessarily to have flexible schedules because they're working. These students deserve to have neighborhood schools and every opportunity given to them, both in and outside of the classroom.
Sarah, thank you for reminding me too. Sarah, thank you for reminding me, and that was, I skipped over it. The STEM team, #1 in the county, our STEM team, that's a combined effort of our schools. And I want to congratulate them. Thank you.
I'll take the extra 2. Thank you, sir. You knew that. First, just to start by addressing the current budget crisis, and there's no question that it is a crisis, but it's a crisis that will recur over and over again until there is reform of how public schools are funded throughout the state. And there's no question that it should be addressed, no question that it's important at this point in this spring, but it will come back again next year and the year after and the year after that until there is full reform. While that is in process, this district needs to continue to address ways that it can save money and serve students. And the thrust of what I want to say this evening has to do with what I think is an extremely unfortunate, if not tragic, circumstance for the Coughlin students over the next 4 or 5 years, regardless of what happens with respect to consolidation. The 2 options that are on the table are split schedules and the purchase of the Times Leader building. Both are completely unacceptable. What ought to happen is that modulars, half dozen modulars or 7 or 8 modulars, be put in place at Myers along the north end of the wall where the stadium is, where the bleachers have been removed. That would enable the students at both Myers and Coughlin to share the pain of using the modulars for some classes while the infrastructure remains in place for the cafeteria, the gymnasium, the laboratories, and it will not require the purchase of an $11 million printing plant for classroom space. And there's no need at this point to buy an administration building. In addition to that, the split schedule concept is devastating. It's devastating to I can't imagine what it would be to face split schedules for 4 years. And the educational impact it has on those students is tremendously negative. Third point has to do with what the district faces if it intends to go forward with either the purchase of the Times Leader building, which it should not, or the consolidation of 2 schools on the present Coughlin site. What has not been addressed publicly is the zoning issues which are confronting the school with regard to that. Both of those sites are in C3 zones, for which public schools are not permitted uses. Coughlin is there as a non-conforming use. The Wilkes Barre City zoning ordinance provides that non-conforming uses cannot be expanded beyond 25% of its floor or siting space, period. All right? There's no ability to get a variance from that. It's a non-conforming use. There is no way, and that's one of the reasons I'd love to see the plans, and I think the community's entitled to see the plans, But there is no way that you're going to be able to consolidate two high schools into a footprint that small that is not going to involve an increase of 25% of the space. And so there's no permission for that expansion. Moreover, the utilization of the Times Litter building is never going to get a use variance as a non-conforming use there either, because there's no way to establish that Times Litter building cannot be used for a purpose other than a school use. Beyond that, it is specifically prohibited to allow a non-conforming use, such as at the Coughlin site, to include an adjacent site like the Times Litter building. In other words, you cannot tag the one to the other. It's prohibited by the ordinance. It cannot be used for classroom space. And the resulting conflict over land use on that issue, aside from the fact it's inappropriate to build a public school that's going to take an L shape out of the major business section of the city, the conflict that's going to arise out of that is going to be impossible for the district to resolve in its favor under its current plans. It's not permitted under the ordinance. The district should recognize that and should go forward with an alternative plan. For the moment, certainly 2 grades of Coughlin can be housed at Myers with modulars being used. And for the moment, we can address the siting of a school to replace Coughlin, which needs to happen. But it ought not be a consolidated school. It ought to be near a neighborhood. It ought to be in Plains. Or it could be in a site in Wilkes Barre Township that's 3 times the size of the Coughlin site that the district already owns. Maybe it's time for Wilkes Barre Township to be served better by the district than it has been to this point in terms of location of schools. But in any event, the options that the school district is presently pursuing is more costly, it will harm the taxpayers, and it is counter-educational. And for that reason, I really ask that you put a hold to that and stop that direction. Thank you.
I just have a couple questions. I just put it under planning, but why, it's been bothering me for about 6 months. Why is it not mandatory? Don't take this the wrong way. Why isn't it mandatory for teacher to have drug testing? Why is it not mandatory?
Is it not mandatory?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, it's an issue of collective bargaining, and our collective bargaining agreement as it currently exists has a drug and alcohol policy which allows for testing based upon reasonable suspicion. It's something that
I mean, you just don't, you do it when you hire? Or no, is it just anybody?
I don't think we do.
Well, I think maybe you should look into that, because
We do a full criminal background check, so anybody who's hired has to meet.
oh, I
all the
understand
criteria.
that, but I'm just talking about drug testing.
Yeah, but under our collective bargaining agreement, we are only allowed to do testing based upon reasonable.
That's it?
What would be reasonable?
Yeah, what would be reasonable?
Let's say someone appeared glassy eye, slurred speech.
Coming to school
appeared to
smelling
be
like
impaired.
pot, yeah? All right. Another question is, this one's for you, Mr. Record.
All right.
Since you've worked at Coughlin,
I never worked at
you've
Coughlin.
been near Coughlin. Is there, does it have like steam heat? Was there steam heat back then?
At one time, steam heated Coughlin High School.
Yes.
I worked at steam heat.
Was there any asbestos problem?
Coughlin High School has asbestos in it.
Okay.
It has to be.
Okay, thank you.
They all did. All the schools built.
All right, and Ms.
Every one of
Thomas,
them had asbestos.
I want to say sorry about your father.
Oh, thank you.
Next is John Sahowski, who'd like to speak about the
First thing to know, Mrs. Thomas. Sorry about your loss.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, we have to talk about it. I mean, he's being alleged that he was dealing and smoking crack. I think if it comes out that he was doing this while he was on the school board, that we really have to talk about that. First thing, I need everybody to raise their hands if they voted for him, for Lou Elmy for school board president. I need to know who was that. Voted for. I know. I'm asking just for president. I know who voted. I know what the vote was. I'm just asking for you guys to raise your hands.
Do you know who the vote is? Do you have it written down?
No, but I know what it is. I know it was 8-1. I know who the one is. I would just like I'd just like a show of hands, if I get a show of hands.
Who did it?
We know.
I ran against
So nobody wanted to answer that. All right. Well, I just like anybody wanted to raise their hand to show that they voted for him. Because my question is, I'd like to know why you guys thought that he would be a good school board president. I'd like everybody who voted for him as school board president to tell me why they thought that he was a good candidate for school board president.
To be quite honest with you, I never thought he wasn't. Hey, the man does his own time, his own business, but anyone in the state doesn't know about their own time, their business. But at the time I voted for him to be president, I had no reason not to vote for him not to be president.
How would the school board know he was a president? How would they know? How would they know anybody in the school district?
I don't know. I don't know about. I think that you would have figured something out by his actions. I don't know. But the first meeting that I've ever seen
I
him.
think that you are alleging that board members knew or had reason to believe that he could have been under the influence of any kind of substance. Is that what you're alleging?
I'm
that
not
we
alleging
knew that?
I'm alleging that it could have been possible that you guys eventually figured out. I didn't say that directly. I'm just asking.
You're implying it.
I'm not implying it. You're taking it that way.
What are you saying?
I'm asking questions, is what I'm saying. Nobody even wanted to volunteer that they said that they voted for him.
The first year that we were sworn in, he was elected board president. The first time he was board president when Mr. Evans, Ms. Thomas, and myself, and Ms. Katza, she was in the back room, we were in the hallway. So the first time, we just came on the board that night at the reorganization meeting. And yes, voted from the second year.
Based on what I've witnessed here and been in the back room, and I mean, like Ms. Thomas said, yes, I did. I didn't see any behavior that I feel was inappropriate. I'll put my hand up. Yes, I did.
I can tell you, he was president the year before, and he had asked for, well, I can't speak for everybody else, but he asked me when I could vote for him because he wanted to serve as a board president again because his daughter was a senior and he wanted to speak at their commencement. And I didn't have a problem.
And I think I nominated Christine. I usually do for president every year, and her name was not moved forward. Lou's was, and I did vote for him. But I have different experience with Lou. Lou's role at the prison, and when I was at the church, he would call me to come and try to help with some inmates. So I'm a huge believer in redemption. I will not cast a stone at anybody. I think people make personal decisions that hurt themselves and others around them. And to me, I think, I choose to remember him reaching out to me to try to help an inmate that he was working with. I was meeting with some of his family on the outside, he was meeting with them on the inside, and subsequently went for moral support to court. This young man got out of jail, subsequently got married, got his life together, and 4 years later or 3 years later is living a life that he can be proud of. And Mr. Elmy started that process. So while there certainly are some things that are regrettable, I'm going to remember the good things that he did, especially in that regard. I'm also come from a family that has had some addicts in it, and it is hard to love an addict because you get hurt a lot. And so when the news broke, my first thought was for Lou, but then very, very quickly, I went to his wife and to his children because I know how that feels. But in terms of the workings of this board and who we supported, I can honestly tell you, there was nothing at that time that raised my awareness to say, we ought to be concerned.
John, he ran fairly, I believe, efficient meetings. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he ran efficient meetings, and he kept us on task in executive session too. He was effective in his role.
And John, from the
solicitor deals with the board president, probably more than any individual board member. The 2-year tenure he was president, he did everything I would expect a board president to do. I think Dr. Prebley would agree with that. He was there when he was supposed to be. He did the things he was supposed to do. If you would tell me that that person had an issue, I would have told you you were crazy. I saw no evidence of it. You know, people would miss meetings if they have a problem. People would be late. People wouldn't be on task. Saw none of that.
We have agenda meetings every Thursday prior to our scheduled board meetings on Mondays. Will ran every one of those meetings with the parties that had to be present. To Mr. Caffrey's point, even at that agenda meeting, we ran it effectively, it kept us on task, and there was no evidence that there was any abuse.
Can I just add something? You had your question was regarding our vote to being president. There were 1,200 people out there that voted for him to be on the school board. So if 1,200 people didn't find anything wrong, how could we? You know.
I'm not expecting it, but I don't know exactly what he was doing. I can't say that I did.
Exactly.
But
okay.
you'd think that you see some kind of signs. Now I don't know. I don't know personally. I don't know how he is. I don't. It just makes me.
We see him once or twice a month, maybe that. And that's it. You know what? I think we all need some forgiveness in our hearts.
Yeah, I agree with that.
John, I would be the last one. You know that. I'm an alcoholic. I relapsed. If I have me on the board, I'm 9 months sober. And I'm looking forward to the rest of my life that way. But never did I deal with drugs or sell drugs or anything else like that. But like the Reverend said, it broke my heart. It threw me back. I like Louis. I had no idea this was going on. None of us knew this. And none of us knew what was happening with me. That it happened, and you just try to get help, and I hope he does. I hope he does.
What I'm concerned about is not the aspect of him that he was doing drugs, the aspect of his dealing drugs, and like I'm uncomfortable like that if he's an alleged drug dealer that could have been doing a $100 million deal. I'd be very uncomfortable if he's if it gets to a convicted drug dealer and he's doing a large, you know, he was in on a huge deal like that. It just makes me want to just have somebody go over everything just to make sure there's nothing. I'm not saying that he definitely did something. I'm just saying that I don't know if he has there was any criminal intent in there.
And let's all be clear with this. Mr. Elmer's been charged with something.
Yeah, he's not found guilty.
Of innocence until he's found guilty.
Yeah, if a guilty plea or a plea deal, I just like that everything be gone over again. Like there be an investigation, just check into some of the things that he did if that happens, if the conviction happens.
Let me just say one last thing, and that is no individual board member has the ability to do anything that they are the same as any other citizen in this community. As a group, where they vote is where they have power to do so. There's not one thing Mr. Elmy can do to control the budget, or Mr. Caffrey can do to control the budget without the vote of the majority of the vote.
Yeah, I know, but it's influence. Influence is what scares me.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Deborah Lamola, who'd like to stand up. Deborah, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Promola, yes.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring up something that's way off. We're all concerned about the budget. Okay, so I don't even know if you'll pay attention to this, but I know a couple years ago the school board implemented the program Skyward, which is the computer program that we're all using. I know they paid $160,000 for it. It was for 3 years. I know that contract is ending now, or like in the next month or two, or soon, is when it was voted on, was in April 2013. I'm looking to see if I have a lot of problems with it. I talked to teachers and students who also weren't happy with it. Gets terrible ratings. Are we going to continue to use that program? Or are we looking into a better, I know there's positive things about it, but either we're not using it effectively, or...
You know what, very honestly, and if you, going back to Coughlin days, when I was over at Coughlin High School, I think Mr. Colella attests to this too. Now, we used an old program that was called AS400. I felt very comfortable with that program. It was the belief at that time, when I was at Coughlin, I think Mr. Colella was at GAR, where we tried, the district decided to bring on the Skyward program. And And I'll be very honest with you, it's not user-friendly. Our principals, our teachers had to have extensive training. Now, what was it, about a year or so ago, too, we had it as mandated by the state. We had to move away from the AS400 that we had actually in our business department. And in fact, they brought Skyward Management in as well here. To answer your question, it is at times a cumbersome program. We are trying to look into, and I'm working with Mr. Makaravich and Mr. Manning, who are technology experts, trying to ease the pain a little bit. I personally, coming from old school, where there's scheduling process, course requests for students and so on, I have a problem with it myself. I'm being very honest. I think, though, if you, and I will take your name and number, if you as a parent are telling me you're trying to utilize Skyward at home to try to see parent, I'm sorry.
No, I know exactly what it does. I went to the school board, or not the school board, but the guidance counselor 6 or 7 times. Teachers are not using it effectively. Okay, it's not a good program. You can't see the grades. You can't see assignments of your children in 2 weeks. You can only just see that they didn't do it yesterday. You can't see upcoming tests on it. There are grades that are on it. The teachers put in the grades. It could change two grade points from the day before the report cards come out to the day out. We're trying to use parent involvement. That's what Title I's all about, right? That's not using parent involvement. If I can't see, if the teachers think I know what's going on, and I could lose 2 grades in one day.
I'm going to ask Mr. Costello. I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your last name?
Formola.
I'm going to ask him to speak to you immediately
Sure.
after this meeting. Maybe you could address something.
There's lots and lots of concern. I interviewed everybody that showed up at parent-teacher conference, and there was a lot of people that did not.
And this is what school? I'm sorry?
Myers.
Okay. Let's look into this further. I know, and I'm going to speak very candidly. Maybe I'm just old school. Used to, just like, you know, if you have an HP computer, you change to Apple, suddenly it's a change. And
right. Well, it's been 3 years, and I know how to do everything it does.
Right.
So it's either the teachers that aren't doing it right, or the program is not effective for our school system.
Mr. I don't know if Mr. Makaravich is here to see me, but I know Mr. Costello is. Maybe he can take your name and answer some of your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Any good reports from your meeting? Gary, Christine, I'm sorry, Ms. Katza?
Thank you. Regarding the LIU, you will notice in your budget or your agenda for this evening, a resolution or pass the general operating budget for the LIU. You will notice that there is a decrease in the amount that we are being charged from last year to this year. And just as a point of reference, we do have presently 104 students placed in the LIU from this district with regard to special education. And the next meeting of the LIU is March 23rd at 6:30 at the LIU.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn?
Next meeting is at Wilkes Barre CTC on the 21st at 5:30 and 6:30. But before I end with this, I want to just point something out that the child care program, which is brand new, received a star, which is very significant. And right now they're at the max. We can't bring any other kids in there until we hire some more people. The thing is just overwhelming success. And it was being criticized heavily by different people while that was going on. But it's really a big program. I think there's like 35 kids that are high school kids, that times 8,500 apiece, plus the kids that are in the program itself. So it's just booming.
Report from Apollo.
The Mackin renovation project. We did receive all of the closeout documentation, the warranties, the operation maintenance manuals, and the as-built drawings from the general contractor, the electrical contractor, and the fire protection contractor. We're still waiting for the as-builts and some of the balancing reports from the HVAC contractor. The GAR athletic fields, as soon as the weather breaks, gets a little warmer, we'll resume
the work on the retaining wall there. The GAR shop room. A part of that project is replacing the roof over the shop, and also there would be an alternate bid to replace the roof over the auditorium. The issue we have with that is tying the roofing into the walls, detailed in the facade report that we sent to the board. Even if we did find a way to tie it in, I mean, there's a couple issues we would have there. One, getting a warranty, because if water got in on the parapet, it can get into underneath the deck where the roof is, and the roof insulation. And the insulation can get saturated. Just waiting on direction what we're going to be doing with that project.
Direction from whom, Gary?
What's that?
Direction from whom?
Well, the board, I mean, you know, it's really tied in with that facade report. You know, if you're going to fix the facades.
Board members have a copy of that facade report. As soon as possible.
There may be some options, you know, with that facade. I mean, that,
you're telling me that the roofers won't warranty that because of the damage on the facade?
that part that shattered. I mean, that there wasn't a facade around there, and you know that area and all the areas I'm talking about, at the shop area and the auditorium, they're the only areas left that have that Trocal roof. That's the same roof that shattered on the maintenance building years ago at Myers. It shattered. There was problems. You know, but there may be options. Instead of the stonework, I was talking to the engineers, we may be able to construct walls out of structural studs, something similar to the parapet at Myers was put on. It may be more economical to go that way.
I think we should look into that before we make a decision.
I agree.
Yeah, we can't just dive into this. This is going to be a major project. Am I correct?
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, it can be done over years. You know, that estimate that was in there didn't include, you know, windows also.
So it could be done over a number of years. Would we have any guarantee that the building would be compromised in any other way? If they did the worst part first and started to cover the roof? I guess there's leakage, am I correct?
Yeah, well,
And damage.
I think if you are going to move forward with the first thing you would want to do would be along Sherman Street, the wall there, you know, is repair that. The area that's been damaged is above the top windows on the top floor. Everything above that, all the stonework. That's what I'm saying. We may be able to put a different type of a system in there with structural studs, similar to Myers, where you put plywood on the structural studs and covered it with
right. And then
flashing.
This project would go like maybe over 3, 4, 5 years,
right,
little by little.
Right, but you know, if you are going to move forward with it, I think you would want to do that at Sherman Street, you know, as soon as possible, so you can get that, you know, Trocal roof taken care of, because that's past its life expectancy already. You know, and that does shatter when you get that extreme temperature change. When it shattered the last time at GAR, it was below zero the one night. 2 days later, it was like 60 degrees or close to it, in the 50s. And that's when it tends to shatter. The new high school, the design on the project is approximately 35–40% complete. We have a tentative bid date, the first quarter of 2017. Did forward to the board abatement bids on Coughlin. Also forward to the board a salvage firm from Philadelphia that's proposing to do a liquidation of the items at Coughlin. Pretty much with that. Kistler moving along with the design. And the Solomon detention basin, we did forward the bid results on that.
Gary, floods roof up, all done, finished,
Yep.
safe, ready?
Yep.
Any other questions for Gary?
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Okay. Curriculum report.
President members of Wilkes Barre School Board, the curriculum administration committee respectfully submits the following important recommendations listed in your agenda item number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gonzalez, second by Ms. Katsa. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mr. Geiger?
Yes.
Ms. Katza?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
9 yes, the motion carries.
Budget and Finance, Ms. Katsa.
Thank you. President, members of the Wilkes Barre School Board, but the Finance Committee has following recommendations as listed in your agenda, letters A, C, and D.
Second. Motion by Ms. Katsa, second by Mr. Llewellyn. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn? Yes. Mr. Geiger?
Yes.
Ms. Katza?
No on A1, no on C and D, yes on the remainder.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
You have eight, yes, and on the entire, motion, the motion carries.
Athletic Committee? Anything on athletic? Safety, Security, Ms. Thomas?
I have no report. Our next meeting, our committee meeting will be this Wednesday, the 16th at 9 a.m. Very important.
Thank you. Contract and Services, Dr. Shusek.
School board contract and service committee presented by the law report of investigations, items 1, 2, and 3.
Second. Motion by Dr. Shusek, second by Mr. Llewellyn. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn? Yes. Mr. Geiger?
Yes.
Ms. Katza?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
9 yes, the motion carries.
Transportation, Mr. Quinn.
There's no report at this time.
Building Maintenance, Reverend Walker.
Yes, Mr. President. I have a list of several items that have been worked on, problem solved, maintenance, repairs, etc. I'm not going to read all of them, but there are several pages here worth of low-hanging fruit type of repairs at Coughlin, Dotson, Flood, GAR, Heights, Kistler, Mackin, Myers, and Solomon. There's also work planned for the spring and summer. Pothole patching, replacing front steps, replacing sidewalks, plaster work at GAR, Myers, and also where needed, and some locker and bathroom stall repairs. So I'm happy to report that just in about a month and a half or 2 months period of time, there has been improvement. So while these improvements are steps, there are at least steps in the right direction, with a lot more steps to go. But we are at least moving in the right direction. Other than that, I'll be reaching out via email, Mr. President, to set a meeting for, I think, next Monday at noon
Do you
here.
want to address this at all?
The sheds? Yeah, so I was gonna do that in committee first, but just to keep, so the public has addressed the painting of the sheds several times. And so we do have a proposal, 2 different options. One is a color stain, and the other one is for latex paint. I'll be bringing this up in committee meeting on Monday, and we'll go ahead and vote and get those sheds painted.
Thank you, Reverend Walker.
Yes.
Legislative Federal, Mr. Evans. Material Supplies, Mr. Llewellyn.
President members of the Wilkes Barre School Board, Materials and Supplies Committee respectfully makes the following important recommendations listed in your agenda items number 1 and 2.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bell, second by Ms. Thomas. Roll call.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Glover? Yes. Ms. Geiger?
Yes.
Casson?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
9 yes, the motion carries.
Personnel report by Mr. Susan.
The president and members of the Wilkes Barre School Board Personnel Committee respectfully the following for ratification. All appointments are made pending receipt of PPE required clearances, certifications, and applicable pre-employment drug tests. The rate professional that Laura Liz Morris's request for unpaid leave beginning January 21st, 2016 to the end of the 2015 school year be approved. And Christina Kruger's request for sabbatical leave for the 2016-17 school year be approved. That Kathleen Coro be appointed as a temporary part-time school psychologist for the section of the 2015-16 school year. The Brittany Colini, a temporary professional employee, have received the final satisfaction evaluation and classified as a permanent professional employee. Under 5, following members of the professional staff in the weekly for the center grades of the WBAEA agreement and reduce official transfer to listening to graduate credit for every exam following effective February 15, 2016. You can read them at your leisure. Secretaries and Teachers Association resolution of junior graduate acceptance be read effective March 18, 2016. Second, the tuition contraction request for leave, a combination of paid and unpaid, beginning with approximately April 2016 to the end of the 2015 school year be approved. Crossing guard that the resignation of Laura Dale be accepted be read effective March 4th, 2016. That Russell Devitt be appointed as permanent crossing guard effective April 4th, 2016. That Green Conway be appointed as substitute crossing guard, and Joseph Leo be appointed as substitute crossing guard, and Conrad Mentos be appointed as substitute crossing guard, and Bruce Richard be appointed as substitute crossing guard. And security graders, there we go again. That Maureen Conway be appointed as substitute security greeter, and traveling security greeter. That Jocelyn Marr be appointed as substitute security greeter / traveling security greeter. That Conrad Mentos be appointed as substitute security greeter / traveling security greeter. And that Bruce Richard be appointed as substitute security greeter, traveling security greeter. Under custodians, that Teresa also be appointed as a substitute custodian. The food service at the retirement of Mike Lindsay Lab be accepted with regret effective May 23rd, 2016. On athletics, that the resignation of Dave Bolzerski as year's cross-country head coach be accepted with regret. That the resignation of James Lampman's football junior head coach be accepted with regret. The resignation of Jeremy Bellamy as Mars football varsity coach half-day be accepted with regret. And the resignation of Dan Hans as Coughlin baseball junior head coach be accepted with regret. And finally, the following appointments are made for sports season will be continued on the season basis unless opposed to declare vacant. But Board of School Directors appointments are effective on all PD required clearances and documents being submitted. Myers Track and Field varsity assistant coach Kenneth White. Myers Track and Field junior high head coach Jeffrey Bell. Myers Track and Field junior high assistant coach Jennifer Thomas. Myers football varsity first assistant coach half paid James Lamon. Myers football volunteer assistant coach Jeremy Bellman. Myers baseball junior varsity assistant coach Anthony Chicago. Coughlin boys volleyball varsity head coach Donald Kenka. Coughlin girls lacrosse varsity assistant coach Darren Moran. Coughlin baseball junior head coach William Monahan. GR softball varsity assistant coach Horace Flannery. GR softball junior assistant coach Lawrence Sam. And the addendum that GR track and field interim varsity assistant coach is Todd Evkevich. GR track and field interim junior head coach Lynn Henderson. That's my report. I'm respectfully submitted.
Second. Motion by Dr. Susan, seconded by Mr. Kalama. Roll call.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Geiger?
Yes.
Ms. Casson?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yes.
9 yes, the motion carries.
Resolutions. Number 1, Ms. Katzak.
Thank you. Whereas the 2016-2017 proposed general operating budget of the Wilkes Barre School Unit has been presented to the members of the Board of Education of the Wilkes Barre Area School District for review, and whereas said budget calls for the total contribution of $402,031 by withholding for member districts, this represents no change from the 2016-2017 budget, and whereas the Wilkes Barre Area School District share of total contribution by withholding would be $62,713, a $476 decrease
Muller.
Yes.
Mr. Geiger.
Yes.
Ms. Hassan.
Yes.
Mr. Quinn.
Yes.
Dr. Susick.
Yes.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Chairman Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Caffrey.
Yes.
And yes, the motion carries.
Resolution number 2, Reverend Walker.
Yes, Mr. President, whereas the recent death of Cletus T. DeMillier has brought sorrow to his family, friends, and all who knew him, and whereas he served as a